We are recording. Oh, yeah, time it is. All right. I guess the time being 6:04 p.m. on Tuesday, May 24th. We'll call to order the May 24th meeting of the Tilton Northfield Fire District Safer Grant Committee meeting to order. Let the record show that all members are present except Matt Gilman, who is currently not here. We hope he's on his way. And I guess first up is, did everyone get a chance to review the minutes of April 26th?
Sorry, I have not. I'm doing it now.
Okay.
It's my, again, I apologize. I forgot this one.
50 lashes of the wet noodle. We'll throw some nacho chips at you. Just to let you know, so it's Center Harbor today. They were at Pukes, down in Wisconsin.
Oh, what? I'm surprised they won't with Pierce.
I think it was Pierce. Is that where they are?
Oh, Pierce is in Wisconsin.
Yeah, so that was, those were those.
Seagrave is in Wisconsin.
Wasn't she?
Make a motion, we accept the minutes of April 26th as written.
The motion, is there a second to accept the minutes?
Yeah, I'll second.
Motion by Paul Blaisdell, seconded by Scott Lewandowski. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? None. Motion passes.
Again, today's my birthday. Big
Oh,
6-0.
Well, on the
My
record,
phone's been blowing up.
we will wish Mr. Paul Blaisdell a very happy birthday today.
Thank you.
I wish I had known.
My mom's calling me right now, so
Go talk to Mom.
I can't. I have to. Okay.
Say hi.
We can take a little.
My mom. What, she hung up on me? Okay.
Because you waited
She
too long
couldn't
to
wait.
answer.
My dad just called me the way here. He said, I didn't call you. My phone rang, it was her phone number.
All right.
I don't know, I must have just put the phone down and hit redial.
All right.
Well, now you can't talk.
Hello?
Hi, can I call you back?
Yes, no problem.
All right, thanks.
Should have been,
Sorry.
get the strippers on.
Yeah, hey, shh. Put your clothes back on.
Anyways, what else do we have on our agenda for today?
I don't make the agenda for this meeting.
So I think, if I might,
Yeah,
I think the chief submitted this to us for review.
yep,
The
Yes.
warrant article,
Yes,
the draft warrant article.
yes.
And I think, you know, as we've been talking, we've been talking about a multi-pronged revenue approach to this. And I think, honestly, I think last month's meeting was pretty much hit the nail on the head. We'll address equipment maintenance with a warrant article. We'll gain some funding through the tower. And
when's the tower gonna go online?
It'll be this year, but there's a slight issue with the foundation of one of the piers. The end of the pour had, the concrete didn't pass the test, so it has to be jackhammered out and repoured.
the whole,
No, just about 4 feet of it. So
but it's all rebar in there too. That's gonna be
Yes.
fun.
Actually, it's not. It won't be that hard because you can take a steel bar and just hit it and it just disintegrates.
Yeah, 'cause it's probably not quite cured yet.
No, it's been there for over a week, so it's cured enough that you should be able to smash it apart with a bar easily.
Well,
Down to about 4 feet, and then it's rock solid. So the last truck that they were taking whatever they put in the mix wasn't right, wasn't the correct.
So that doesn't cost us anything, though.
It's gonna cost the concrete company because they sent the wrong mix.
So I think we also discussed a little bit about impact fees.
Yep.
And I guess I'd like to get everyone's opinion on impact fees. My opinion, if I might, is I think we should shy away from them. I think it just adds a lot of administrative costs. How do you address that fairly? And how is it gonna affect growth in either town? I think all those are negatives.
Does Northfield have any type of impact fee for any project coming? I don't know, I'm just not familiar with their planning process.
I really don't know.
I don't think they do, because I think we would have seen that with the UPS project. And I don't think they do. I know Tilton does not. They did discuss it in within the last 5 or 6 years, and it was kind of shot down for similar reasons. Mostly scaring off development.
Well, I mean, you've got to administer it. Number one, you've got to determine what the fee is going to be and
Right.
what type of scale or how you determine that, and then you have to administer it. So I think we should try to do what we're trying to do without the impact fees. So the other potential revenue source was, and maybe you were mentioning this earlier, was a reduction in overtime cost.
Yeah,
Because
so I'll be able to figure that out as I go along, but again, the new records management system is very trying for me to pull certain particular reports out, especially in my budget process. For emergency callbacks, I never figured a number for emergency callbacks. All I can tell you is how many we used to have, and how many we have now is less than what we used to have. So
Well,
I never really tracked that particular part of overtime.
well, the next question, logical question is if there is a reduction in overtime, how do we utilize that potential revenue for the safer grant men? I mean, because you have on your budget what the projected overtime is and what the actual is. So how do we, if the actual is less than the budgeted, how do we make that money available for the 4 men?
So in the same fiscal year, I can move funds within the same fiscal year. But then I really don't know what that's going to really look like until the last quarter of the year, barring any craziness that might happen. But normally, say for instance last year, we overexpended on overtime and underexpended on salaries. But since it's a bottom line budget in the end, it really doesn't matter.
Right.
We didn't overexpend on overtime an awful lot, but we had a lot of guys out last year for a number of reasons.
Well, I think also that, come district meeting time, if the townspeople see that there's a reduction in overtime or you've spent less, then I would fully expect them to say, hey, next year we're not going to allot quite as much.
Yeah, so what I can do is hours right now, and now I'm working that over into what's that meaning money. Because now I have to get the payrolls compared to the hours and who's making what, and so where I can see where I'm saving money on that. But definitely less hours. It's just a matter of fine tuning what that amount is. So I might not be able to say right now in cash, but I can say since we are using less emergency recalls, we're saving money in overtime. I just don't know how much at this point.
Yeah, so I guess my point is whatever that value is, how do we
Capture that.
transfer that to the payroll of the 4 men? Is that, I mean, because
That's going to be,
I mean, can we even consider that to be a funding source?
You can't, I don't think you can consider it funding source, you can probably consider it a savings,
But
of
could you,
a certain kind of savings.
could you do another warrant article where, because by the time warrant articles have to go, we kind of know what we spent, and if you're not raising additional funds through taxation, but you're taking that overage that would go to the unassigned fund balance, let's just say it was 25,000, I don't know, and putting it towards those wages.
Or you could use it to offset the tax rate, which is another way
Yeah.
of saving money.
Right. But I think the argument would probably be raised that, hey, if you didn't spend any more, if you didn't spend as much as you thought on overtime, that should go back to the taxpayers directly, not transferred to a different place in the budget for the format.
Well,
So I guess I'm not quite convinced that the overtime is gonna be, or the reduction in overtime would be a potential funding source. I think it's just gonna end up being a result of
Yes, more of a sideline,
a consequence
Yeah.
of the foreign.
an unintended consequence.
So,
It wasn't, because I wasn't planning on that happening, it just,
and I don't know.
it was one of the things that we realized that this is happening.
One thought I had, I don't know how to translate, so please pardon if I ramble, but there's a project that's potentially coming to Tilton that, from what I've been told, is gonna generate $1 million in taxes for the town of Tilton. So I can imagine that's gonna be some type of translation to the fire department, meaning,
How does that work, chief? Just at the district meeting, the funds are appropriated, right?
Right, so if Tilton's realizing, has a new source of revenue to property taxes or other taxes and fees, it doesn't really relate to the fire district in that sense. What the fire district will see is if this new project generates incidents to the fire department, which will actually incur cost, because
Right.
every incident has a cost assigned to it.
Is the fire department's present equipment adequate for this development? Or will there need to be additional apparatus
No, I
required?
think we're good.
what I'm thinking is if there's, let's say, a $200,000 tax hit, that would be into the fire district, you can get, I don't know if you can earmark those funds to go towards the salaries of the fourth person.
That, if the town
No.
of Tilton's kicking extra money to the.
No, it's gonna be based on the tax rate, so
Yeah,
if Tilton's paying, I don't know, $2 a thousand toward, I don't know if it's possible, but I thought about it. Because then you also have at least one commercial development in Northfield, being the UPS, that's been approved, but it hasn't broken ground yet. And then I don't know where the status is of that housing that they wanna put in, but that's another. And then I believe Spalding Academy wants to put in another building or two. That's gotta be, now Spalding, I mean, I know that generates calls, I don't know about the other stuff.
So are you thinking of a potential funding source or a justification for the 4 additional men?
Combination
Because-
of both.
Yeah, because this is a good opportunity to say, hey, you know, that 4th man is crucial because of these development projects.
It's gonna be an increase on, I mean, I know, despite what people say, I work in a hotel. I don't work in a hotel with a function space, but very rarely do we have to call the fire department for anything. So we're not really a burden on the services. We almost were today when someone decided to stick banana bread in the toaster. But we're not, so that hotel, despite what everyone says, now a function space, someone's dancing, they could, bust a knee or spray an ankle or something.
Well, the bottom line really is that with the additional development, it's going to change maybe the balance of funding, but it's still not going to provide more potential funding for the fire department. It'll just be, it's gonna be the chief's budget, and I'm sure the taxpayers are thinking, well, okay, we get this additional tax revenue, it means we won't have to pay as
Yeah,
much.
they're not gonna have to.
It'll offset the tax rate for the town.
Yeah.
So
I wasn't thinking it through. All right, I'll shut up. I was just thinking.
Yeah, no, it's all good, it's all good.
When I think of impact fees, I was thinking of like $1 million plus projects, not like a, $200,000 residential house. So I don't know if that would make the formula easier, because there's not a lot of $1 million plus projects. There's a couple that we know about, but not a lot of them. But I don't know if that would be enough consistently to really fund long-term this project, even if, because I know permitting fees are pretty high, at least in Northfield. Like, it's pretty high, pretty substantial permitting fees now if you want to do construction or renovation. So adding another whatever whack of a couple $100, I don't think it's going to go over super well for like the residential kind of ballpark. And I think we were talking more about the resort and stuff like that, but I think we missed the ship on those fees.
Well,
I would think at this point, because they're going to
well, no, they haven't been.
Well, they haven't been.
Well, they haven't been approved, but they've been discussed and they've been before the town, so they're gonna be like grant.
But they haven't, well, they haven't been before planning board. And that's where those types of things are gonna come out.
Yeah, but they've been before the zoning board of appeals.
That was just to get a variance for.
Doesn't matter, the project is like,
But
it's out there, so trying to hit them right now I don't think it would pass.
Well, if people
I mean, I don't
said,
think it's
hey,
legal.
Well, how do these towns that get, they're gonna come in and build, a big distribution facility for XYZ company, all of a sudden, they're buying a new fire truck for that town.
That's through negotiations with that
Are
corporation.
we so you're saying we've missed the boat on that opportunity?
I don't think, because you haven't issued any permits, I don't think the negotiation is out of the question.
Well, if someone,
But-
when they have their public hearing and all of a sudden, someone comes out and says, well, geez, you guys are gonna be a burden on our services. Now we have to hire an additional additional firefighter, additional police, how are you gonna help us pay for that? Because if your project doesn't come to town, we wouldn't need it.
Scott-
They could say, we'll offset that, maybe we'll fund part of a cruiser or something like that,
Scott?
I talked to the fire chief down in Hudson, where the big Amazon project's gonna go. Amazon actually pulled out.
Yeah.
The project's still going though, because it's still gonna be turned into, I guess, some type of warehouse distribution center, because I guess more people than Amazon need it as well. But there was no impact fees whatsoever. It was all negotiation between the municipality and the developer. Amazon was just a tenant. The state also had a stake in there where they were requiring, are going to require road improvements and widening and stuff like that. But the town of Hudson was going to realize several $1 million a year in property tax increase because of that, and they were going to use that to help offset some of the stuff that the town wanted to do. I think an addition on one school, over a period of time, and additional personnel in code enforcement and the fire department and the police department, maybe even DPW. I don't
Want me to
remember.
lock this door?
No, you're fine.
Leave it.
Are you guys done?
We're done. Pretty quick.
Wow, that's good.
I locked the front, so.
Front's all locked. I'll lock it on the way
All
out.
right, thank you, Eric.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Thank you.
Well, Scott's got a good point with respect to the threshold of, when the fire district might impose an impact fee. I don't know what that value is, but maybe the commissioners could consider kind of a generic impact fee. At least get it in the policies of the fire district that any development over X amount may be subject to impact fees based upon negotiation between the fire district and the developer. But at least get it in writing that, hey, there are potential impact fees, rather than after the fact saying, boy, I wish we had, you know.
Well, it's a good question. Do you have a seat, does the fire district have a seat at the table for that type of stuff, or?
The type of seat that we have at the table for that currently is that anything that, plans review, site plan review, we would make sure that the engines can fit, you know, the ladder truck's gonna reach the roof, setbacks for pavement so that we can get the truck close enough to the building to meet that setback, make sure we have access around the building, or at least 3 sides of the building, location of private hydrants, approval of the sprinkler system, approval of other, you know, fire alarm systems, type of stuff like that. And all of that's really code.
Would it be helpful to have someone besides yourself breach this subject with the commissioners? Would you like me to come in the next meeting and discuss it, or what do you think?
I mean, I could do it as a report, but I mean, if, you know, if you can, I always invite someone to come to a meeting to talk about it, so. Just like, you know, the building committee comes, it's not just John talking about it, so yeah, I have no problem. Our next, you wanna know when our next meeting is?
June 7th?
I think that's right, is that right?
Sounds right.
Seems late. Yeah, it is June 7th, though. Yeah. No, it just seems late, later in the month, you know, but that's because the first is Wednesday.
Another school shooting.
One in Texas, or
Yeah,
another
I
one?
just saw my phone.
14 kids, one adult,
Or is this another one on top of that?
elementary school. Well, I mean, do you think it makes sense to have kind of an open-ended policy?
Yeah, you gotta get their feedback.
Get the commissioner's feedback. Certainly we need legal to look at to see if what you propose is, we can do impact fees. The wording of it, I'm sure, would have to be scrutinized to make sure.
And then
that
would it
it's
have to be
legal,
approved, would it
fair.
have to be approved by both towns, or?
No,
because
it's just the fire commissioners are the only ones that have to approve it.
So your comment earlier with the Hudson one, where it was a negotiated impact fee, I don't know if that's the correct word for what they negotiated, but can you find out what steps that fire department used in order to get that impact fee?
They had little to no say in it. It was the city manager, with the town manager, that was really doing the negotiation.
So the impact fees were for the entire city, not strictly the
Correct.
fire department?
Right,
Okay, so that could have been water and sewer and everything else.
right.
What do you think, Scott?
Well, I mean, you don't want to hinder business growth, and I just don't know how we would do the structure, like how to make it fair. Like if you leave it open-ended, then I think then businesses wouldn't know, you know, like a UPS facility versus a hotel. I guess what would be a bigger demand for service? Probably the hotel. Probably, but you can't rule out the other part. So I'm not sure how you would do that fairly is my only.
You just do strictly on value,
Evaluation.
not purpose.
Okay, you could do that.
I'm just thinking, you know, as someone said earlier, if it's, you know, valued over $1 million or $5 million, it's an impact fee of X amount.
Like 1% or something, I'm not sure.
Or do you do fixed?
Or maybe a sliding scale. you know,
maybe.
2% up
And-
to
and
a
it-
certain
and-
value.
an impact fee is usually just once, when you
Right, no, but what I
get your
mean is
occupancy
like
permit, you
say-
pay the impact fee.
1% up to $1 million and then 1/4% after that, or something like
Yeah.
that.
I don't know who you would talk to about that, the attorney or is it
Well,
DRA?
the attorney already looked it up, said the commissioners can implement by a vote of the commissioners an impact fee. What that would look like, I'm sure we'd have to explore.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, why don't you
And,
come
and
in on our
and run
next
it by,
meeting?
make sure that,
We'll
meets.
put it on the agenda for the next meeting then. June 7th.
I know it's an option we should probably explore. And I know I personally kind of shy away from impact fees.
Well, think about it though,
There's-
if you're gonna hook up onto the water district, you're gonna pay,
Let's not go there.
but no, but it's a similar situation where you're paying a fee,
Yes,
connection. whatever.
connection fee.
Yeah, but depending where you are in town, you're paying,
Yeah, depending upon where you are.
You know, honestly, there's two good things that come out of this discussion about impact fees. Number one is, if there is some realistic result of a potential impact fee. Second is, we've investigated it.
Yeah.
And we found that it's not feasible, you know?
Yeah.
Because what if somebody says, hey, you know, did you guys think about impact fees? And if we say, you know, that's a good idea, we didn't, then people are like, well, what are you guys doing?
No, it's absolutely something we should explore and
look
look
at
at.
it and see what the feasibility is of it and, you
Yeah.
know, 'cause it could be, depending on, if it's a UPS, it may not require such a big fee, but if it's a nursing home,
Well,
Or-
yeah, that's,
you know.
Well, it would be kind of interesting to see if any other district has them and what that structure looks like. If, not even for the percentage or value, but how they differentiate between different different
Yeah,
types of development.
I wouldn't limit it to fire districts, I would look at other municipalities, because
Just in
that's
general.
essentially what we are. A municipality would,
Providing one service.
yeah,
Right.
well, it's really more than one service, but, yeah, we're not a typical municipality where we're providing multiple services. We don't have a DPW, and we don't have,
Right.
we have one department that offers multiple services.
You're looking at-
Okay, so,
well, that could play into what you charge for the percentage of it too, because you know, for a municipality, you get your bang for your buck in dump trucks and finance people. Here, it's a very limited scope, so I think you have to think about that when you go in the fees as well. I don't think it'd be fair to charge.
But it is it's a one-time fee, so it's not like you're gonna get $50,000 from a project every year.
Yeah.
right, yeah, it's gonna be difficult to kind of count on this as one of our funding sources.
No, but you could put it into a capital account, so it goes strictly to that and it helps
There you go.
offset it.
So I know the deputy had some discussions with the developers already in some type of, what can you do for us? And he proposed that dock space for our boat.
Yeah,
And they said that they could probably make that happen.
because where would you put your boat at night? You're going to Belmont, right?
More or less, yeah.
And that's another 5 minutes down the road.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you wouldn't keep it there per se.
Probably not.
You would-
Because our boat, 99%, well, maybe not 99, but 90% of our boat work is in they're in the river, actually.
Yeah. Hmm.
The only other thing, when I was looking over the proposed warrant article, What is your guys' thoughts about putting diesel fuel in there as well? Only because we're trying to capitalize a little bit of the gained revenue from the EMS billing, you know, the extra ambulance transport we get. So really, the more that the ambulances are moving, the more they're generating revenue, the more diesel they're gonna use. So in theory, if we have a good billing year, the diesel cost should be higher. If we have a lower billing year, the diesel cost should be hopefully a little bit lower. I didn't know that. I know it's not a ton of money every year, but that might be another 7,000, 8,000 potentially we could think about putting in there too.
I think, I'm trying to remember what our diesel budget is this year.
8,000.
15, somewhere in that area, yeah.
So you might blow through that pretty quick, I don't know.
That's.
Well, yeah, we're burning through that.
Well, yeah, I mean,
That's
yeah,
a
we
good
go
one.
to $6 and $6.50
Right,
a gallon.
yeah, 679, on the way down to
Okay.
Tennessee.
What?
Oh, God. 300 bucks a fill the tank. 1,200 bucks down and back
Oh,
on 2,000 miles.
It's cheaper to fly.
I don't think so. Yeah.
679 a gallon in Pennsylvania.
Home heating fuel's about the same right now, yeah, pretty close.
Yeah, it's creeping up here now. Well, is it, I mean, I think it's gonna be difficult to quantify, you know, how much extra diesel we use because of transporting or that
I
having.
think if we did that, we'd have to say, we'd have to figure out what our diesel budget is and take a percentage of that.
But that means an additional change to the equipment and apparatus fund, right?
Yeah.
And I think we may want to be careful. Because
they don't want to liquefy it too
We
much.
may lose everything, right?
Yeah.
I
Just
think-
becomes a fund, and now when it comes time to go purchase equipment, now it's just gonna be,
Or it will get shot down as a warrant article
Yeah.
because it's,
Too expansive.
yeah. I think this it's very easy to justify, I think, what we've discussed so far. I don't know how anyone could say that's not part of the equipment and apparatus expenditures.
And, I mean, this is certainly something that as we get into budget season that the budget committee would also discuss and vet out as well. More people, you know, with differing opinions about certain things.
Well,
Might get a better idea of that as well.
what you're talking about is for the warrant article?
Yes, so all the warrant articles that have a money number associated still go before the budget committee, but the budget committee doesn't have to approve them because all the warrant articles are submitted by
the commissioners.
the commissioners. The budget committee can say we approve or not, we're vote in favor of passing this warrant article or not in favor of it, but it doesn't matter, it's still going for a vote of the general body.
Right.
It's a commissioner's item, that's it, it's not a budget committee.
So I guess what we've determined is that it's gonna be difficult to quantify the overtime cost and include that in our revenue stream. The other thing we talked about was an additional grant, and that's just ongoing, right?
Yep.
And I think we've kind of covered the other grant, or the other potential sources. I guess I don't know what else to do, or what else to propose.
I think there's, at this point, I don't think there's much else to propose. Unless we find other grants out there that could go
Right.
towards staffing. I don't know if
So-
there's any other grants that aren't just for, you know, safer grant, but are just, there could be one-time grants that you can get. And
So maybe for our next meeting, if the chief could try to quantify as best he can what the tower fund projection for the tower fund. And again, we have this year and next year in the grant, right? It's,
So the vote for the grant, well, I guess I should say, we have to make a decision this year at the very next district meeting
okay,
to
so
say
that-
whether we're gonna continue with the grant or not.
so that-
Because although there'll be money left over, the grant runs out before the next fiscal year starts. Also, the application period for an additional, to continue those guys, I'd have to start earlier than, you know, if the grant runs out in February, depending upon when the application period is. I have to, the sooner I know whether I have to apply for a grant, the better.
well, I think
Because
that
you don't want to be caught in
You should apply for a grant and then keep still.
regardless, yeah, I think,
Well, that'll be up to the commissioners whether you want me to apply for that grant or not, you know. And then, because the last time we got the grant, and it was like, there was a COVID thing in the middle, and things got delayed, and people were accusing me of trying to pull a fast one on her. Because of the timelines of when things happened.
well, I guess it's going to be difficult then to quantify what the capital from the tower fund will be. Because
I have a spreadsheet of that already built out. Depending upon, it'll show the tower revenue based on one carrier on it, 2 carriers on it, 3 carriers on it.
Okay, but
So-
at the end of this year, we'll only have one, right?
Maybe 2, I don't know.
Oh,
I mean, that's,
oh,
I don't know that until the tower company, Wireless Edge, comes to me and says, we're getting another tenant. Okay, what's your timeline on that tenant of getting up on the tower?
Okay. All right, so you'll be able to quantify it for the one that's
Yes.
on there now?
Yep,
And then you're able to quantify what we might transfer using this warrant article from maintenance?
yes.
And those are the only 2 firm revenue sources we have now, right?
Yeah, one requires a vote,
Right, right.
so, but at least we'll have a picture.
And then the only other ones that we talked about were, you know, an additional grant, which we just discussed, and impact fees. So, and I totally agree that the impact fees are gonna be, you know, hit or miss if we decide that, or if the commissioners decide
Well, I think the commissioners will take the advice of this committee and we'll research it and determine what the best approach to it is, you know.
And even though the commissioners can do it with a vote, it's certainly worth having a public hearing on it before.
Oh, absolutely.
Because, I mean, it would impact the whole community, and not only the town of Tilton, but the town of Northfield as well, because an impact fee would be district-wide.
Yeah.
that. Sure.
And whereas both communities are trying to attract, you know, commercial development right now, there may be folks that are saying, you know, the $50,000 that the fire department's gonna get out of this might detract.
Dissuade, yeah.
Yeah, detract from somebody wanting to
The
come.
tipping point for a project coming to town or not,
Yeah.
you know, that could go, but I think it'll be,
I mean, I know certain projects, we kind of do this now, when they have a project, we kind of look at them and say, well, you have to do this. Can you give us this to help us out with fire protection? Like the placement of a fire hydrant, an extra fire hydrant in a yard that we can access
yeah.
and use it for other things. I know the project that we're talking about, we're already talking about the fire prevention system there, being able to help us in other areas as well. So, you know, those are the types, some of the things that we look for. You gotta do it anyway, so let's see if we can do it this way and help us out.
So, do you have any qualms about that?
No, no, I just wanted to just get the feedback for the diesel, but that makes sense. I mean, it would be an added expense that might, you know, ultimately we want to get that passed, and if you think that that will detract some votes, then it might not be worth the gain.
How do you feel about this?
That, I'm okay with that. The impact fees, I think we have to really do our
Right.
homework on and make
Okay.
sure.
Well, I guess then, what I'd like is for you to go to the commissioners and say, you know, we'd like to discuss this amendment
Yeah.
to the equipment and apparatus fund, and see what they say.
I think, didn't I give it to the commissioners to look at
I was
anyways?
trying to think if you did.
I think I did. They didn't take any action on it.
No, I don't think it was this guy. I think it was more of a take-home read it and
Informational.
digest it
Sure.
and follow up at the next meeting.
I guess I'm happy to discuss this also, Eric, if you want at the next meeting.
I'll let you know. I just got to see how comfortable I am with it.
How comfortable you are with it?
Yeah, talking about it. And,
Oh, why?
warrant articles aren't my forte.
Okay, so you sit in the background.
I'll say,
No, I guess my feeling is that we need to have some concrete action items. And this, I think, is one of them. The impact fees is another. I'm sorry, not the impact fees, the tower revenue is another. The impact fees are a potential. And the additional grants are a potential. And that leaves us a big hole to dig out of with respect to $365,000 a year.
yep. It's a big ask. I think there's potential. I don't think we'll get.
We're not gonna get anywhere near that.
No.
Well, I guess we were shooting for half of that.
Half.
Kind of
Yeah.
At the first year, if you can get half, that would be great, and then slowly reduce it after that. It may be reduced quicker or not, depending upon other circumstances that happen.
Well, here's, I
You know,
think.
do we get 5 tenants on the tower quickly? The revenue goes way up, you know? If it stays with 1 tenant on the tower for 3 years before another one comes up, that revenue source isn't really, you know.
But if you have 4 or 5 tenants on there, that's going to add up to a nice chunk of change
It does.
every year, because that doesn't, only goes up because you have a kicker in there for what, 2% a year?
2.5% every year, it's going up anyways.
Well, here's another thing that we kind of kicked around in the last meeting, which is that this is really only tiding us over to a situation that we were headed for anyways, right? So in 3 or 4 years, we're gonna need the guys anyways.
Needed them now.
So,
The data that I have shows that we need them now. That show, and I've related some of that to you already, the reduced response time to simultaneous calls, the amount of EMS mutual aid that we're using is it's down to 1 or 2 a month compared to 8 or 9 or 10 a month. The additional revenue that we're collecting because of that, and in addition to that, we have more call volume now. Even we're already over 100 calls more than at the same time than we were this time last year. So instead of 2,000 and small change, we're going to be 2,100 or 2,200 calls. It's just.
It's a big jump.
well, I think when we get closer to district meeting, it's gonna be important to quantify that,
delineate all of that.
especially the increased revenue based upon the fact we're not calling mutual aid, you know,
Right.
so.
Now, when you do a recall, do you typically get people back, or is it a hit or miss thing for you guys?
It's a hit or miss thing. It's, if they're available, sometimes they'll get 2 or 3 people, sometimes they'll get 5 people, sometimes they get nobody. It's a,
You guys get?
No, that's why I asked, because we get like 1, maybe 1, you know, so I didn't know if by not doing, like, if people were showing up for the recalls, then not doing them would be a decent savings, but if it, you know, but if they weren't coming in, I wasn't sure what the break-even point would be for you guys.
it depends upon what time of the day we have a recall.
Well, yeah.
And another function of that is a lot of the career personnel don't live around here.
You probably have the same
I
situation.
get 2 guys that live in Vermont.
They're not coming back. Unless they happen to just have left and we
Yeah.
get our recall.
But that will help too, though, in the, you know, pitch when we go there too, is going to be the decrease in recalls and stuff like that. I think that would make a big impact for people. So I think there's a lot of things going good in kind of what we got going on. It's just the funding, you know. But with growth too, that's another thing. We got growth, which there's 2 major projects, and you know.
The populations of both towns have increased,
And they're aging,
Yeah.
And they're what?
aging.
and it's,
Aging.
the median age is higher than it used to
Yeah.
be.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Well, you see it, I mean, you see it.
Yeah.
And that in itself means that we're going to more calls.
But more calls don't necessarily.
So-
more
so-
transports.
This is a funny, I don't know if it's funny, it's realistic. 66% of our EMS calls are to people who are 60 years or older. Or something like that. It's like, and they're serving 1/3 of the population. 66% of our EMS is serving 1/3 of the population on average. And it's not the veterans home. It used to, when I first showed up here, we would go into the veterans home 2, 3, 4, 6 times a week.
Well, they have,
we go
don't they
there.
have their own private
Well,
carrier?
they're using a number of EMS providers right now, but we go there once or twice a month now. And our call volume is still going up.
So it's not where you're going, it's just that you're going more places.
So it happened today where we had 2 EMS calls at the same time, and we had both ambulances out, and we didn't have to do a recall, because they were local, they weren't going to Concord or something like that, you know.
When you go to Concord, does that automatically trigger a recall?
It used to, but not anymore. When we only had 3 guys on duty, yeah, it was a recall. Now it's not. And the call company still has the opportunity, anytime there's a call, anyone from the call company can come in.
Oh, I didn't know
I try not to restrict that, because if we start to restrict it, then they stop coming in altogether. Because there was 1 year where I had to manage the budget, and I had to restrict the amount of time that, when they would come in. You know, if it was an EMS call, I would say, you know, only this type of personnel can come in because we need to fill for this position and stuff like that. And it took like 1.5 years to get back to people coming to calls. And for what the call company cost, between, you know, training, the salaries, physicals, and, you know, uniforms and stuff like that, it's probably about $125,000 or $130,000 a year for the whole call company, for all of them. And when you need them, you need them.
Right.
The problem is, and this is everywhere, during the day, we don't have a call company.
I think that's indicative of most towns.
So-
During the day, they don't have many.
Yeah, no, that's the way it is, yeah. So like yesterday morning when we had the fire at Freudenberg, it happened really early in the morning, so we got 1, 2, 3, 4 of the call people came.
We kind of opened a segue with that topic right there. That one. Just show them
Sure.
what you put in the article, in the press release.
So that was,
If you read that press release,
Oh, is
right,
that the one from the other day?
yesterday,
Yeah, I read that.
mostly the box thing, letting people know that having that fourth made a difference. I like it.
yep. I can't claim that, Deputy Joubert authored that one.
Still, I like it.
Yeah,
It was-
no, it was good.
Because it shows people, because I think if you start putting it in their head, we had four, you know, we're safer. I think it'll make it be an easier sell.
I'm trying to figure out some ways to get that into the, now that I'm allowed to go back on Facebook, I'll try and figure some ways to
Yeah,
slide
just-
that in here and there.
You gotta just put that, yeah, just, I liked it. I read it, I liked it. So you gotta get it on the Tilton Northfield page, not the Union page. That's wrong, the Union page. Don't get me wrong, but,
I read it, yeah.
I think it kinda softly broaches the subject of having, the importance of having four.
Every opportunity, you need to blow your horn every opportunity you can. I mean, as long as you're not blowing smoke,
Well, that's
so to speak. All right. What do you
Anything
guys
else?
think?
When do you wanna meet again?
I don't know, do you think we're,
And probably good for a few months, right? Till we get,
till we get additional
Yeah.
topics to talk about?
Yeah.
I guess I'll talk to Catherine then and send out an email about when we're gonna meet again.
Okay.
Probably right before budget season,
Yeah, I mean,
maybe late August or early September.
yeah, yep. Maybe by then, you'll have a better
I'll have a
idea
better handle on a lot of the
some of
stuff.
the funding.
Or maybe we'll know when the towers are gonna be occupied.
No, more, certainly time's gonna provide me more information.
A little setback with the footings, but you know.
That's like a 10-day setback. It's not like a year or a month setback.
No, but it could be you know, they're not gonna be able to put anyone on there until July versus June. It's a month, right? So. All right, anything else?
Make a motion, we adjourn.
That's a motion.
Second.
It's a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. We are adjourned at 6:58 PM. Bye-bye. I hit stop.